So I often talk about business and the financial advisor world and investing. Today I'm going to talk about investing in something more important than anything else you can invest in, and that's your relationship. Ultimately, I run a pretty busy life, and my wife runs a pretty busy life, and our kids are pretty busy all the time. And busy is a word that I've learned to really not enjoy. I feel like sometimes you're moving in a whirlwind and you're high-fiving each other as you walk in and out the door instead of really connecting. And so Adrian and I have come up with our own word that we've used over the course of the last 10 years, and we call it a ROM weekend. And a ROM weekend for us is where we call it a Rekindle Our Marriage weekend. And it started after our second born came along, and we're 6 months into the second child, which was a rude awakening because he was nowhere near as easy as the first one. And I thought I was doing everything right, and I was helping the older one, and she thought I was doing everything wrong, and I was helping only the older one and not helping out in anything else. And we really had this disconnection for a short amount of time. And you know what that disconnection really was? It was not having the time to actually talk to each other, to actually listen to each other. And so we're in the British Virgin Islands, and we're on a ferry 6 to 8 months after my youngest was born. And she looks at me and says, "This is the ROM weekend. This is our Rekindle Our Marriage weekend." And she laughed. And it became a theme for us. What we learned was if we did this once or twice a year, even if it was just a quick weekend, there was something that we gained that could not be put on paper. I mean, it was just something that we felt. And this past weekend, we had a soccer tournament, and we like to intertwine our worlds because they're still so busy that if we don't find the time in the busyness, we don't have time. So we went to the Williamsburg Winery. We stayed at the Wedmore Inn. It was an unbelievable weekend. We were able to see soccer games. We were able to have a nice dinner with just the two of us. We were able to actually have a nice breakfast with some friends in the morning. We were able to listen to each other. And the uniqueness of that is a lot of people don't take that time. They get so busy in business, so busy building something that they're actually building for their family, for their spouse. And yet, what they're doing is separating further and further apart. They're not connecting on the level they need. When we have these weekends, we find that there may be a couple weeks, there may be a couple months, but there's a peace that comes over our house. There's a connection. We've remembered that we don't just love each other, we like each other. We enjoy each other's company. I know more about what's going on in her world, and she knows more about what's going on in mine. And at the end of the day, our kids really benefit from that as well. Our friends benefit from that. We feel fulfilled and a whole lot less empty. So if you're finding yourself high-fiving your spouse as you walk in and out of the door, to and from soccer practice or dance or cheerleading or gymnastics, or whatever it is that you're running and doing all the time, I encourage you to take a moment, plan out a quick ROM. They don't have to be long. It could be one day, one night. But if you don't separate from the world that you're in every day, you can't truly connect on the level that I think you'd find so valuable. I know I have. And I'm very lucky and blessed to have a great family and a great spouse. And you know, when you're talking about business, you can't be successful in business without great people surrounding you. And maybe you don't have a spouse, maybe you don't have kids, that's okay. The reality is, hopefully you're surrounding yourself with a group of people that are making you better every day, just like my family has me. So I'm Scott Danner with Freedom Street Partners. Take a moment to follow us on YouTube and subscribe. You can even hit the bell to alert yourself when we put out these new videos. And I encourage you to plan a ROM weekend, a ROM night, a ROM week. The weeks are the best. And I think you'll find it to be something you'll really enjoy. Thanks for joining me.